as far as painting the world as grim, I don't know. If you look at classical literature, the core of literature is the idea of tragedy, and that's, you don't really learn much from the good things that happen to you. But tragedy is at the core of human experience, and it's what we have to deal with. That's what makes life difficult, and that's what we want to know about. It's what we want to know how to deal with it. It's unavoidable. There's nothing you can do to forestall it. So how do you deal with it? And all classical literature has to do with things that happen to people they would really rather hadn't.
Three days later, they were in the mountains. The caporal had sent a mozo with them to cook and to see to the horses, and he'd sent 3 young vaqueros not much older than they. The mozo was an old man with a bad leg named Luis, who had fought at Torreon and San Pedro, and later at Zacatecas. And the boys were boys from the country, 2 of them born on the hacienda. Only one of the 3 had ever been as far as Monterey. They rode up into the mountains, trailing 3 horses apiece in their string, with pack horses to haul the grub and cook tent. And they hunted the wild horses in the upland forests, in the pine and madrono, and in the arroyos where they'd gone to hide. And they drove them pounding over the high mesas and penned them in the stone ravine, fitted 10 years earlier with fence and gate. And there the horses milled and squealed and clamored at the rock slopes, and turned upon one another, biting and kicking, while John Grady walked among them in the sweat and dust and bedlam with his rope, as if they were no more than some evil dream of horse. They camped at night on the high headlands, where their wind-tattered fire sawed about in the darkness, and Louise told them tales of the country, and the people who lived in it, and the people who died, and how they died. He'd loved horses all his life, and he and his father and 2 brothers had fought in the cavalry, and his father and brothers had died in the cavalry. But they'd all despised Victoriano Huerta above all other men, and the deeds of Huerta above all other visited evils. He said that compared to Huerta, Judas was himself but another Christ. And one of the young vaqueros looked away, and another blessed himself. He said that war had destroyed the country, and that men believe the cure for war is war, as the curandero prescribes the serpent's flesh for its bite. He spoke of his campaigns in the deserts of Mexico, and he told them of horses killed under him, and he said that the souls of horses mirror the souls of men more closely than men suppose, and that horses also love war. Men say they only learn this, but he said that no creature can learn that which his heart has in no shape to hold. His father said that no man who has not gone to war horseback can ever truly understand the horse, and he said that he supposed he wished this were not so, but that it was so. Lastly, he said that he'd seen the souls of horses, and that it was a terrible thing to see. He said it could be seen under certain circumstances, attending the death of a horse, because the horse shares a common soul, and its separate life only forms it out of all horses, and makes it mortal. He said that if a person understood the soul of the horse, then he would understand all horses that ever were, They sat smoking, watching the deepest embers of the fire, where the red coals cracked and broke. "Idée les hombres," said John Grady. The old man shaped his mouth how to answer. Finally he said that among men there was no such communion as among horses, and the notion that men can be understood at all was probably an illusion. Rollins asked him in his bad Spanish if there was a heaven for horses, but he shook his head and said that a horse had no need of heaven. Finally, John Grady asked him if it were not true that should all horses vanish from the face of the earth, the soul of the horse would not also perish, for there would be nothing out of which to replenish it. But the old man only said that it was pointless to speak of there being no horses in the world, for God would not permit such a thing,